Today we're going to talk about how you can throw a football for beginners. So first things first, we're going to talk about the ball carriage. How should you hold the ball when you're about to throw it? So there's a lot of information on there about people saying hold the ball on the shelf right here between your ear and your shoulder. Some people say hold it up directly by the ear, and honestly, both of those are wrong. Where you want to hold the ball and where you watch every single NFL quarterback that plays the game today, they are nice and relaxed and in a position called opposite equal. So a lot of guys will hold the ball center of the chest. You see a lot of guys like Patrick Mahomes maybe hold the ball below the chest, but the one thing they all have in common is that they are relaxed with their shoulders and they are in this opposite equal position. Opposite equal means your left and your right arm, they're opposite, right? But they are at equal distance. So if I'm holding this ball in the center of my chest, my right arm is not like this, my left arm is not like this. They're opposite and they're equal. I'm nice and relaxed. I don't have any tension with my upper half, so I could have full range of motion and full mobility in my throwing motion. When you hold the ball up by your ear, guys, you have a ton of you're just super tense in your traps and your shoulders, and it limits the range of motion that you have. So we want complete range of motion and upper body mobility by being in opposite equal position, nice and relaxed right in the middle of your chest, slightly to your right pec, but that's the best pre-throw position. So now let's talk about the feet. What should the base look like for a quarterback? The base is anywhere below your waist. So a lot of guys say like maybe in the pocket you want to sit 50-50. Only thing I would say is you don't want to have more weight on your front foot than on your back foot. A lot of the quarterbacks that I work with see a ton of success out of being in a position called being stacked. Being stacked means you want your head, your knee, and your foot literally stacked on top of each other like a sandwich. So that'll put you in probably like a 70% on the back leg, 30% on the front leg position. We want to be very light on my front foot in my throwing motion. Now why? Why is this an efficient base? The reason why this is an efficient base is I could take that 70% and when I stride to my target, I could transfer that 70% to the front leg, and that weight transfer is how I'm able to get more power on my throws, more distance on my throws, and ultimately more velocity when I'm throwing something over the middle. So I recommend trying to stay in that stack position, weight is back, nice and light on your front foot, so when I step to the target, that weight transfer fires that ball through. Now if you're a young quarterback watching this video, check out that very first link in the description below where you can get access to an 8-week daily on-field workout schedule for QBs. We break down everything you should be doing on the field as far as drills go. We map it out: Monday do this, Tuesday this, Wednesday rest day, etc. We provide examples of each exercise, video examples, and we tell you the exact sets and reps to do. So if you guys would like an 8-week long daily throwing schedule and an 8-week in the gym workout schedule for quarterbacks specifically, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate QB training package. Now, the next part of your throwing mechanics as a quarterback is going to be the load phase. So the load phase is how you take the football back and how that coincides with your front stride. So let's break down the first two steps of the throwing mechanics first. Being in a relaxed ball carriage, nice and relaxed opposite equal position. We're nice and stacked in my base. My head, my knee, and my foot are together. They're stacked on top of each other. They're level. And when you step to your throwing target, when you take a step with your front foot, what you want to do is you want to separate your hands and slightly rotate your front shoulder back. You want to think of this phase of your throwing motion as like you're hitting a baseball. I'm in the batter's box, pitcher throws me a pitch, I step to the pitcher, but I stay in that stacked position, I keep the bat back, and then my hips fire through, ripping the bat through. That's essentially how we want to throw a football, fellas. When those hips fire through before your shoulders, before the bat, and then as a quarterback, when you stride to the target, rotate your shoulders, take the football back, and your hips fire through before this, that generates something called torque. Torque is when the hips rip that upper half through from a position called hip and shoulder dissociation. Don't need to worry about that too much, but that hip firing through before the shoulders and the ball, that creates more velocity on the ball, and it'll make us a more efficient passer, alleviating stress off of my arm. As a quarterback, we don't use our arm. We use our legs, our hips, and our core to generate power. The arm's just along for the ride, and that's where my accuracy comes from with my wrist flick, and we'll get to that throughout this video. So guys, what we want to think about, the take back phase. You stride to the target, we remain stacked, slightly close that left shoulder, back of your left shoulder should get to the target, so it sets us up for the proper hip rotation through. Now let's talk about the rotation phase of the throw. So let's break it down from the very beginning of this video. We want to be opposite equal, nice and relaxed. We want to be stacked. And then the first phase, the take back phase, what do we want to do? We want to stride to the target, and I want my shoulders to slightly close. I separate my hands and I stay in this weight back position. I'm staying stacked. Now, what brings the ball through, like we mentioned, is the hip rotation. So you guys want to think all of this weight that we have, that 70% that I have on my back quad in a sense. You want to take that weight and go from quad to quad. I want to shift that 70 to the 30% on my front foot. And that shift of weight will naturally rotate your hips. A lot of quarterbacks, what they'll do is they'll get in this base, they'll stride to the target, but then they just think hips. But when you just think hips, your weight stays back, your chest is almost pointed at the sky, and you're essentially throwing off of your back foot. You want to transfer your weight, but it has to happen after the front foot gets down. I'm here, I step to my target, weight stays back, and then I'm shifting from quad to quad, which will fire my back hip through, and that back hip will come through before the shoulder, before my elbow, before the ball. You want those 3 points, football, elbow, shoulder, to chase your hip. And if I could get to this position, that alleviates stress off my arm and will increase the amount of velocity and distance on my throws. Now, if you're a young quarterback watching this video, there is so much more to playing the quarterback position than just having good throwing mechanics and knowing how to throw a football. So there's so much involved in this game above the neck. Football IQ, knowing how to read defenses. And if you guys would like to improve in that area of your game, check out that second link in the description below where you can get access to over 500 different videos that I myself have made on how you can read defense. Now, it's not just like 500 videos just scattered. We organize it by category, cover 0, cover 1, cover 2, play concepts, everything that you guys need to improve your football IQ. So if you want to be able to read defenses like a college or pro quarterback, check out that second link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. Now let's talk about the next phase of your throwing mechanics, and that is going to be the follow-through phase. Now, after I break down this follow-through phase, we're going to show you a couple examples of myself throwing the ball so you get a better idea of the throwing mechanics in full action. So the follow-through phase, let's break it down from the very beginning. So I have my opposite equal position. I'm nice and relaxed here. My weight is shifted back 70-30. I take a stride to my target. What's my front shoulder supposed to do? Slightly rotate back. I separate my hands. What brings me through now? That weight transfer, right? So when the weight transfer is coming through, this is where a lot of quarterbacks will lose spin and lose accuracy, and that's on their follow through. So at this point, guys, what you want to shoot for is a position called extension. So extension is when you release the ball, you want your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder to be in a straight line extending to the target. And that is when you want to ultimately flick your wrist. So when you guys release the ball, we don't want my palm up. I don't want my wrist to break and push the ball. I want to think the top of my thumb should be parallel to the grass, and my wrist, elbow, and shoulder are extending out to the target. If we could get to that point after this, a lot of coaches will say you got to go opposite pocket, you want to flick and hold it and extend. I really don't care. All 32 NFL starters get to this extension point, and then after that, some guys will come across, some guys come down, some guys leave it. It really honestly varies, and it's all about comfortability at that point. But we need to make sure that when my hips fire through, I'm getting to that extension point to be more accurate and to have more consistency on my throws.